And we're back. Welcome back. Wow, thank you all so much. You really know how to make a guy feel special today of all days. The chat has been absolutely blowing up today. I mean, nonstop. And it sucks when you have a real job because there's a lot of people trying to have this conversation, trying to have this debate. And I mean, I checked my phone after like an hour and there's literally like 200 updates from new followers, new comments, people sharing and reposting the videos. So there's been a lot of interest. To say nothing else at all, there has been a ton of interest in the Virginia redistricting case because I mean, if you look at these national podcasts, if you look at a lot of these shows, they act like it's a done deal. Oh, well, Virginia lost the redistricting battle. I haven't heard anybody talking about this ongoing like court battle. You know, just one mention, oh yeah, Judge and Tazewell judge tried to stop it. And no other, the oral arguments, like the details about this case, the details are what make it freaking awesome. You have an actual Virginia attorney standing on business saying that he does not think that slamming through this vote by ignoring all of the procedures, he doesn't think that should be allowed. And then you got some Californian coming in saying that, well, you know, if the court says that we need to uphold the rules, then it's going to make Virginia unlike any other state. I mean, this is absolute cinema. What is happening here? Actually, to be honest, this has been the entire culture war, hasn't it? This really has been it, is that people who have an actual tie to the place where they are standing right now, people who actually believe in the place where they are, those people representing themselves saying that there's actually something here worth holding on to, something that makes this place special, and then somebody else coming in, an outsider coming in and saying, but that would make you different. Don't you want to be the same as everyone else? No. That's what makes this country special. That's what makes Virginia special, is that this is a place where the people who actually have a tie to this place have an interest in not seeing it be like everywhere else. There is truly a special place. And today, when I did, on my lunch break, I actually had a chance to look through the comments, and I saw a person, actually a few people in a thread that were talking about recently moving out of Virginia, that the state just kind of became unlivable. They didn't like being there anymore, and so they sold their house and they moved to Georgia or North Carolina or Florida or back to Massachusetts. And truly, I said this a couple days ago, I can't imagine living anywhere else. I love my state. No matter where you are in Virginia, literally, you can just drop into anywhere in Virginia and you're like a bike ride away from some historic battlefield or monument or some place that was part of some just something. There's so much of our country's history is right here, and it's not worth just letting go. And there's less and less people. Every month, more people leave. There are less people that are here to hold the line. And seeing this happen right now, seeing a Virginia lawyer stand up against some California lawyer who comes in to argue that our state should just be more like everywhere else, honestly, I think that that's why this case means a lot to people, even people that aren't in the state anymore. And it really means a lot to me that people are so involved, that people are commenting and sharing and debating this, because that is really what this show is about. It's about debating. Like, we want to argue these things. We want to be respectful, but we do want to actually argue and debate and talk about the details that make these things different. And it's not about just slam dunking or scoring points. It's about actually debating these things through to the finish, so that you can make a point, something that if somebody would need to practice cognitive dissonance to the fullest extent, if they want to just ignore these facts and try and go about their day, it should be the kind of thing that sticks in their craw a little bit, where they kind of have to circle back and say, wait, but that doesn't sound right. That wait, that's not what I was told. It needs to be something that motivates a person to go to Google and say, hey, wait a minute, what is the amendment procedure process in Virginia? Because, at the end, these people voted, and now what? Their vote just doesn't matter, and then you give them that information that they didn't have before. You give them the information that, no, for an amendment to be added in Virginia, according to the Virginia Constitution, there's actually 3 votes that are needed before the citizen votes. The first vote is by the House of Delegates. You need a supermajority. 2/3 of the House of Delegates needs to vote on the amendment. Then there needs to be a vote for the representatives in the House of Delegates in Virginia. The reason for that is because you, the voter, need to be able to examine how your representative voted and decide, are you going to support that person in their reelection? Did their vote in that amendment process, did that represent you well enough so that you could actually bear to continue to support them? And then after that House of Delegates election, then there is another vote by the House of Delegates on whether or not that should proceed to the actual citizens of Virginia. All 3 of those steps were ignored. They slammed through the procedure, and they did it for one reason only. It was naked partisanship. They needed that vote to go through as soon as it did so they could secure the new districts in this midterm election. The reason they're doing that is because they know that redistricting in other states, like Texas, is going to cause them to lose seats in the House. They know that there are other vulnerable seats in the House that could be flipped, purple districts that'll go red again. They already know that this is happening. So right now, they are trying to slam this vote through to try and rebalance the scales. They haven't been following the same process like Texas or like Florida, and that does fundamentally make it different. That is the difference between power politics, and that's the difference between following a constitutional process. Now, what's happening in Virginia, what Democrats are doing in Virginia, that is power politics. That is naked partisanship. But if you are new to this show, if you just started following me today, and a lot of you started following me today, I couldn't thank you enough for that. Honestly, it really makes me feel great to see people getting involved and joining on. But what's happening in Texas and Florida is a risk to the Republicans in Texas and in Florida. Please let me explain why. When you have single party rule, there is a huge risk for any person on the fringes. If you're a Democrat, please listen up, because this is a warning to you if you consider yourself progressive. When Texas redistricted, as soon as it looked like they were in the clear, what happened next? What happened the next day? They immediately started going after the crypto bros, these libertarians that broke for Trump, that broke red in the last election cycle. These are influenceable people. These are true moderates, people that sometimes vote for Democrats and sometimes vote for Republicans. That's fundamentally different than, say, somebody like me who chooses between voting for a Republican and staying home on the couch. There's a big difference there between someone like me who says that person did or didn't earn my vote, or says, will I vote left or right? That's a big difference. Now, when Texas redistricted, what happened next? Those libertarians, those card room owners, they got shut down. Why did that happen? Because there was a massive investment into the Texas casino industry. And the casino industry, when they gave their $100 million investment, when Miriam Adelson Sands Casino made a $100 million investment into Texas, it was like the next day you saw these card room owners. Hey, Lizzie, happy to see you here. When you see those card room owners get arrested the next day, that should tell you what you need to know. If you are on the political fringes, then you are at risk under single party rule. And there are Democrats who understand this in Virginia. Some of them even testified for the RNC in the SCOVA case. Their testimony was read to the Supreme Court of Virginia. And what's crazy is The California attorney representing the Spanberger administration in court, they didn't even bother to depose those people. They didn't cross-reference those people. They didn't try and question them at all. So there is a big risk if you are a Democrat living under single party rule. If you consider yourself in the political fringes in any way, then you are at risk under single party rule, because necessarily they will take you out. You are the one at risk. They want to get rid of you. Those donors, those people living in Northern Virginia, those Democrats in Northern Virginia, and those Republicans in Northern Virginia that control the parties in Virginia, they are embarrassed by the rest of us. They don't want anything to do with us. They do not want us to have a voice. That's why there are 5 districts in Fairfax. They need to make sure that they control the state in that one area. Because if they can do that, they don't have to broker and moderate or make any concessions for their progressives or for their conservatives in the rest of the state, whether that's Tidewater or Southwest. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. So right now, we're seeing this be held back for now. We will see this come through again. There will be another vote. The Democrats that are currently controlling the Virginia legislature, they will be sure to adhere to the process the next time. So that being said, if you are a Virginian who is thinking about leaving, if you're a Virginian who wants to go, I am begging you, please consider staying, because there is something special about Virginia that is worth fighting for. And I hate to beg, but I mean, honestly, truly. And anyway, I don't want to get over my skis. Things look pretty good for the RNC. They look pretty good for the no vote right now, but a lot of the Supreme Court justices, they didn't weigh in. And the worst case scenario for chaos is allowing the state to proceed with updating those voter rolls, with changing those precincts and reassigning districts, and then having to go back. So it could just be that they're trying to be careful as they deliberate a close call. There is also a chance that they know that they're going to shoot this whole thing down, and so they just say, "Hey, don't waste your time going on and spending all this money redistricting and doing all this stuff, because it ain't happening, Captain." Who knows? Now, in other news today, there was something very interesting. The King of England swung by the White House for a white tie dinner. First time we've done that since, I think, 2006. We exchanged some gifts. I think we gave a letter that was from John Jay. No, it was from John Adams to John Jay. It was written to John Jay when John Jay was the emissary to England. This was after the Revolutionary War. And basically, they were, this letter, or no, I'm sorry, it was John Jay to John Adams. There we go. And John Jay said he met with the King of England, and pretty much they were all good. Like that, even though the war was over and but there was no bad blood, we could continue to be friends. And so Trump gave this as a gift to the King of England. The King of England gave, he gave he gave America it was some kind of schematic to an old ship. I can't remember the details of that. I was really more interested in the John Jay letter, because I think that that's a very interesting time in history. Bury the hatchet, move forward. Be civil despite disagreements, even despite some bad blood. Wow. What a great political message at this time of all times. And then the King of England actually went on, he gave a speech, and it was a nice speech. He warned about the dangers of political violence, that violence never prevails. And I hate to be such a sop. I hate to really rain on everyone's parade, but since September 10th last year, there has been no political repercussions for anyone other than Republicans. It has been nothing but infighting on the right since then. There has been no political accountability. Even today, Hakeem Jeffries was questioned about some of his rhetoric, about him saying that it's total war on Republicans. Those are his exact words. He was asked about this. Carolyn Levitt read a bunch of Hakeem Jeffries quotes from the podium during a press briefing, and then reporters asked Hakeem Jeffries, "Hey, about those quotes that Carolyn Levitt, do you have anything to say? Do you disavow your old comments?" And you know what he said? Hakeem Jeffries said he stands by his comment. He said, well, first he said that she took his statements out of context, and then he said, but I stand by what I said. Bro, which is it? Like, seriously, which is it? Was that out of context, or do you definitely stand by what you said? Because honestly, I don't think you can have it both ways. Am I being obtuse? You can tell me if I'm being obtuse, and I won't take it personally. But I don't think you can have it both ways. You can't say, well, that's not what I said. But if I did say it, then I stand by it. That doesn't really work. It doesn't really work. Well, except for it does, because there's no consequences ever. Ever. Like, James Comey got indicted again. Does anybody believe that James Comey's going to be convicted? Like, do you really believe? I mean, even despite everything, despite all the momentum, do you really believe that James Comey's going to be convicted? I don't. I mean, I won't believe it until I see it, which is the same way that I feel about this Virginia Supreme Court case. I will not believe it until I see it. And even when I see it, I'm going to kind of have a hard time believing it, because that is just not how things go for us. Like, for Republicans, it's just not how it goes. But who knows? I mean, maybe the times they are changing. You know, I can feel a wind coming in, an unfamiliar spirit is floating through. Who knows? But it does. I do have to bring up one point though. When we talk about accountability, right? When we talk about escalating rhetoric or political violence, there is something worth mentioning about accountability, because I see a lot. And you see this online. So maybe this is just a hyper online thing. People that look at the facts and they say, you know, I don't really believe it. They say, you know, this whole thing that happened at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, it just looks staged to me. And listen, I don't really trust the government. Like, a big surprise, you know. Like, I mean, the big surprise. You know, who trusts the government anymore? Why should you? Look at all the corruption. Look at all the fraud. Why should you trust people who supposedly make $150,000 a year, turn it into millionaires after just a year or two? Why should you trust them? But at the same time, if every time something like this happens, the narrative is immediately like, oh, it was one of his own supporters in Butler. Oh, well, it was actually Charlie Kirk's wife who planned it. Yeah, it's his organization and his wife planned it. Oh, yeah, it was actually staged. The Trump administration staged the events at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. If that is the response every single time, there will never be accountability. You are running cover for them, and they like it that way, that they can do literally whatever they want, and there's never an ounce of accountability, because there's a bunch of idiots online rushing to the keyboards to say, I think it was staged. Every single time, no matter what. And I'm sorry, like, that is part of the sickness. When things like this happen, I'm sorry, like, you can't just say, it was staged, I don't trust anything. Okay, well, like, so what? Like, we just let this keep happening forever? Do I have to lay it out again? I laid this out on Rumble last night because I do not want to get kicked off of my live streams anymore. It limits the reach. It limits the conversation. I hate when this happens. But when it really comes down to it, if every time something happens, everybody rushes to the keyboard to say it was faked or that it was an inside job, then the people who are going online or going on the news or on the Senate floor calling for violence against Republicans, do I believe that it was staged by a bunch of Republicans, that a bunch of Republicans got together and found some very generous Kamala Harris supporters or some very generous Act Blue donors, and they found some generous people on the left that are just willing to do these things and fail? Things that their party leadership, that Stephen Colbert, that Jimmy Kimmel, that Rachel Maddow, that Hakeem Jeffries, that Nancy Pelosi, that all of these people constantly, every day are calling for. And then when it finally happens, that I believe that it's staged and I'm the idiot? Come on. I mean, seriously, just think about it. Think about it for 10 seconds. Think about the mental hoops you have to jump through, the actual bargaining that you have to make mentally to make that make sense. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. So anyway, there was that. There was that whole aspect of the thing. Again, the King of England, he made a really nice speech. It was beautiful. And I don't usually go in for the royals thing, We fought a whole war so we didn't have to pay attention to these people. Now he's talking to us in a microphone, trying to tell us how it is. No, I mean, I thought it was nice. I thought it was nice. That's all. That's all. So there is another angle to this that is worth mentioning in a lot of ways. So if you watch my lives regularly, you'll know, I think it was last week, that there was a report there was a report out of the English, it was like their oil management thing in England. Whatever, sorry. The EU's strategic oil reserve, right? And they say there is only 6 weeks left of oil in the EU, right? So this is obviously, that's bad news, right? And that was a year, that was already a couple weeks ago. So we're down to like 3 or 4 weeks. And hey, not for nothing, like the Strait of Hormuz is still closed. I know that we all got really distracted with this Supreme Court case in Virginia, and we got really distracted by like the third attempt on Trump's life that we know about publicly, not including all of the ones that they thwarted much sooner. So like while we're looking at all of this, it is worth mentioning there's literally no pressure on the administration right now to end the war. And the Strait of Hormuz is still closed. And England is quickly running out of fuel. Now, England's in a particular spot where they had Brexit and then they didn't really Brexit, but, there's still a lot of favor for Brexit there. So, like, they're kind of in this limbo where, like, with the EU, they're kind of in the best position possible because they can just take it or leave it and be like, hey, wait a minute, we voted on this a long time ago. We don't have to listen to you guys. So at any moment, England could just make a deal separate from the EU and just say, you know what, we actually get our gas and oil and natural gas from the U.S. now. There's already shipping lanes that go through the Gulf. Like they already are increasing exports to accommodate us. So, screw this whole thing. And we also don't want to buy it from Russia because Russia turns around and then starts bombing Ukraine, who we are then expected to take a larger share of payments in defending Ukraine. So we spend more for Russian gas just for them to turn around and make us increase our defense spending. This ain't working. So right now, we're actually in this timing of this event, this thing that hasn't happened in 20 years. This is not an accident. This is not a coincidence. And this wasn't just a chance for the King of England to come and talk to his old pal, Donald Trump, to go pal around, say hey, tell him, like, shake his hand. Hey, dude, I'm glad you're alive. Like, that's not what happened. No, like, he probably came here for a very specific purpose, a specific purpose that isn't in the headline. And that is, hey, dude, what's going on with this war in Iran? Because when the lights start turning off and other people run out of gas, we'd like to not have run out of gas. And the U.S. is in we're in a very advantageous position because the U.S., even though we're not yet a net exporter of oil, if the cost of oil gets high enough, we have more than enough reserves that we can be. Meanwhile, we are controlling all of Venezuela's exports, and the Strait of Hormuz is closed. So Iran used to have about 25% of global oil available to trade was just coming out of Iran. One country. With Iran closed, with Russia currently entangled with Ukraine, the United States has 80% of oil available for trade is directly controlled by the U.S. right now. So with that in mind, and the fact that Europe doesn't produce enough of its own oil, do you think maybe that we're making a deal here? Because now, mind you, England does. British Petroleum, BP, that's still a pretty big company. That's still a lot of oil. So a powerful enough alliance there means that between England, Venezuela, and the U.S., you've pretty much just rewrote global trade policy. Screw NATO, screw the EU. You can have a deal just like that, but only for the London bankers. They don't even really produce much there. I mean, they got the wool, so you got that going for you. You get your wool products again without the tariffs. But you have and your whiskey, I think, Scotland, they're part of the UK, right? I think so. Pretty sure. I don't know. So anyway, you can get, they have some manufacturing in certain markets where it would be favorable if you want to kind of let them into the fold. But between us, Venezuela, and England, we could create kind of a powerhouse for oil. You could really start rewriting global trade deals with just a small group, and you just start saying, listen, we only have to make this club just big enough for global power, global control. And now Brazil, they're back in your beck and call. Now Colombia, Mexico, all of these people have to fall back in line, even if tensions get hot. Oh, Canada, also technically part of the crown still, just saying. So if you want to really ramp up global pressure, then it makes sense that this guy would show up right now, that he'd show up just in time before they're about to run out of oil. Because like I said, it's been a couple weeks that they said they only got 6 weeks left. And in another week, they're going to start canceling domestic flights. In another week, they're going to have to start rerouting trades. They're going to have to delay shipments. It's coming. Like they are heading directly to the edge of the cliff with no end in sight. I'm telling you, the King of England, he doesn't have it's not like it used to be, like Parliament is the one making their laws. They have a House of Lords that's voting on their actual governance in a day-to-day. But the King of England does have a lot of diplomatic authority. He's basically their chief diplomat. And their chief diplomat shows up for a once-in-a-generation, literally, a once-in-a-generation dinner right now. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not a plan truster. That's not me. I'm just a guy on the internet who I connect a lot of dots. I see a lot of things. So for those of you who showed up for the conversation, I appreciate it. I repost these videos, Rumble, YouTube. That's where you can see the archive. Any of the live posts you didn't see live, you can always check it out on Rumble or YouTube. Just follow Vince versus Everyone. That's Vince vs Everyone. And there's been a great conversation today on TikTok. All the shorts go to all the channels, but there's been great conversations on TikTok. The X channel is growing. We're also on X, formerly known as Twitter. That's growing now, too. It's great. Instagram, there's a little conversation over there. A lot of people who think they're ready to debate. You guys get me so ready to debate. You guys I see every argument from every angle. You guys, by the time somebody even comments on Instagram, it's like, I've been doing this all day, bro. I'm already warmed up. And I have nobody but you guys to thank for that right here. So please follow Instagram, X, YouTube, Rumble, whichever your platform of choice. I'm always here for you. I'm always here for you. I feel like I'm forgetting something. There was one other thing. That I'm missing. No, I think we nailed it. The Facebook page. We revived the old Facebook page. There we go. Vince versus Everyone. Let's keep the conversation going, right? We have a little group forum. We can share news articles. We can do that kind of stuff. You have something interesting, you think it belongs on the show, send it to me on Facebook or just DM it to me on literally any platform. Because like I always say, I'm always here for you. You guys aren't always here for me, but don't feel bad. You can make it up to me. You can make it up to me by just hitting that like and share and subscribe button. And if you do all that, then we'll call it even. Thank you. Good night.